We are at the last chapter of the term, Chapter 18, the reproductive system. And both the male and female reproductive systems include the organs and glands that produce the sex cells and transport them to the site of fertilization. The male sex cell is called the sperm, and female sex cell is called the egg or oocyte, and both are produced by a process similar to mitosis called meiosis. This diagram shows meiosis. It's basically mitosis taking place twice. During one division, there is a mixing of the chromosomes. They break and recombine, so there's a mixing of the chromosomes. And in the end, you get 4 cells that are genetically diverse and have half the chromosome number. So what's the purpose of meiosis? B and C are correct: reduce chromosome number and genetic diversity. What are the final products of meiosis? 4 genetically unique cells. We need to know the accessory organs, gonads, and external genitalia of both males and females. We will start with males. This is a frontal view of the male reproductive system. We'll start outside the body. The penis is outside the body. The end of the penis has an enlargement called the glans penis. And when a boy is born, he has skin covering that called the foreskin or prepuce. Also outside the body are the testicles. They're in a sac of skin called the scrotum. From the testicles, which is where the sperm are produced, they travel to this region, still inside the scrotum, called the epididymis, and during ejaculation the sperm will travel up the Ductus deferens into the body, around the bladder, and be joined by secretions from 3 accessory glands. First, the seminal vesicle, second, the prostate, and third, the bulbourethral gland. Once those secretions are added to the sperm, it is called semen. Be able to identify all the body parts. The testis is subdivided a bit like an orange into sections, and in each section will be 1 to 4 seminiferous tubules. There are a half a mile of seminiferous tubules in one testicle, and this is where the sperm are produced. That production of sperm is called spermatogenesis. It's kind of cool how they're produced. This is a cross-section of the seminiferous tubule. So on the outside is the cell that will begin meiosis. And remember that the cells will divide twice, and once they're done dividing, the sperm cells will be in the center, and then they'll travel to the epididymis to mature. Basically, what you should know here is the seminiferous tubule, that's the epididymis and the testes. The normal adult male produces over 100 to 200 million sperm each day. Here's meiosis. And you'll notice there are quite a few names for this sperm cell as it goes through its division process. You don't need to know any of those names. Testosterone is produced outside the seminiferous tubule in cells called interstitial cells, still inside the testes. Then testosterone will be used for spermatogenesis. There are also cells called nurse cells that also aid in spermatogenesis. Here are the sperm. They consist of a head. Inside the head will be 23 chromosomes made up of DNA. At the top of the head is a acrosome cap filled with enzymes. Because many sperm attack the egg, and the enzymes break down the outer layer of the egg so that finally one sperm can get through. So the enzymes are needed for the sperm to be able to enter the egg. The sperm cell also has mitochondria and a flagellum for swimming. The mitochondria are for energy. And here are some abnormal sperm cells. Most of these would never make it to the egg. If they're too big, they're just going to be too heavy. And that is a result of the double-headed sperm. That was my Halloween costume one year. Internally, these are the organs that you need to know. And we'll look at each one of those separately. The epididymis, the ductus deferens. So look at that, the word duct. A duct is a tube, so that's our ductus deferens. The seminal vesicles, the prostate, and the bulbourethral gland. The epididymis is on top of the testes, still inside the scrotum, and that is where the sperm mature. When the sperm are produced inside the seminiferous tubules, they aren't swimming. So they go to the epididymis to mature and basically take swimming lessons. The tubing that's going to bring the sperm into the body is called the ductus deferens or vas deferens. The vas part might make you think of a vasectomy. That's what this ductus deferens or vas deferens is cut during a vasectomy. And it's a muscular tube that is going to push the sperm along into the body. So here's a Playboy bunny, and here's the Playboy bunny frontal view. So it's got ears, a head, and a bow tie. And the reason I show that is because really, this male reproductive tract looks like the Playboy bunny. See the seminal vesicle here? The ears. The prostate gland is the head. And the bulbourethral gland is the bow tie. So we'll start with the ears, the seminal vesicle, the seminal glands, or seminal vesicles. Every textbook's different. And this gland is going to secrete alkaline fluid. The vagina is acidic to prevent infection because the vagina is basically an opening to the body. And the acidity protects the woman. So sperm cannot swim and function in that acidity, so they bring their own neutralizing alkaline fluid. They bring along fructose to help give them energy to swim those long distances, and prostaglandins. A prostaglandin causes smooth muscle contractions, and the prostaglandins in the semen will cause the vagina, the muscles of the vagina to contract, helping the sperm move toward their final destination. This is a cadaver. It shows the prostate gland just below the urinary bladder, and you can see that it is surrounding the urethra. The prostate gland oozes out a milky alkaline fluid, again to neutralize the vagina. Older men get benign prostatic hypertrophy, where the prostate gets a little bit bigger and squeezes that urethra, and it makes urination a little difficult for older men. The bulbourethral gland is the last gland. The B for bulbourethral, B for bow tie, and this is going to secrete mucus to lubricate the tip of the penis to reduce friction. Again, know your body parts. Semen is going to consist of the sperm cells and the secretions. So it's alkaline because it's got secreting alkaline fluid from the seminal vesicles and the prostate. It's got prostaglandins, it's got nutrients, and the volume is 2 to 5 mils. You can see 1 mil really isn't a lot of fluid, and 1 mil contains about 120 million sperm cells. This kind of weird picture shows the spongy tissue. So this purple column here is the spongy erectile tissue of the penis, called corpus spongiosum and corpus spongiosum and corpora cavernosa. you don't need to know those terms. It's just erectile tissue. And that will fill with blood, and the blood will be trapped in there during an erection. The scrotum has got a muscle to pull the scrotum up to the body, pulling the testes up to the body. The testes are a little fussy in terms of requiring a certain temperature for sperm production or spermatogenesis. And so they can't get too cold, can't get too hot. Sometimes men who exercise heavily wearing briefs, their testes are too close to the body and they don't produce sperm. So the testes kind of have to hang loose to produce. That's a nice little rhyme there. The penis is going to convey urine and semen, and this is just showing the good blood supply and that spongy tissue. You can see the 3 circles of spongy tissue. At rest, the arteries that supply that erectile tissue are constricted, but with sexual stimulation, the blood vessels will dilate and blood will flow into the erectile tissue and basically get trapped in there. And that's what's wrong with some of those medications like Viagra. You've probably heard the commercials that say if you have an erection for 4 hours or longer, go to the emergency room. Yeah, that's really bad for a man's blood pressure to have the blood trapped in there. What is the function of the bulbourethral gland? That's the bow tie. That's the last gland. So that produces really the mucus. However, some textbooks say there's some fructose being secreted as well. Mucus is fine. What's the function of the prostate? That's the face. That's the big round gland. That secretes alkaline fluid. What contents of this gland enter the ejaculatory duct? The seminal vesicles enter the ejaculatory duct. What protects the temperature of spermatogenesis? That wasn't in the PowerPoint, the name of that muscle. That's the dartos muscle. What is the function of the seminal vesicles? That secretes a lot. So the correct answer is E. Both A, C, and D are correct. Secretes alkaline fluid, mucus, and prostaglandin. There's a lot of detail here that you don't need to know, but be aware that emission and ejaculation are different. Emission is the movement of the sperm from the epididymis up into the body to the urethra, and ejaculation is the movement of the semen out of the urethra. Again, more detail than we need. You can pause here and read through this chart. And hormonally, we don't need to focus on the hormones. The hormones are the same for males and females. I think we'll just skip those hormones. In the testes, the hormone is testosterone. And you've seen what happens when you take too much testosterone. Increased body hair, increased muscles, rage. And this is one of the reasons why we are not focusing on the hormones. We've had a hormone chapter, and this is just too much at this point. What is the function of LH in males? Well, we didn't focus on the hormones. You don't need to know that it stimulates the interstitial cells to make testosterone. And here are some male issues: benign prostatic hypertrophy, prostate cancer. Men should have a prostate exam or be screened for PSA, the prostate-specific antigen.